Officials telling CNN the Trump administration has been planning for weeks to send National Guard troops into Chicago. President Trump signaling on Friday that Chicago could be next in what he says is a broad effort to curb crime in major cities. National Guard troops are currently patrolling the streets of Washington, D.C., despite a new poll showing an overwhelming majority of Washington, D.C. residents are strongly opposed to that. Now, Chicago's mayor says if Trump does go forward with sending troops to Chicago, he will challenge that move.
You know, there are some political differences certainly that we do have in Chicago, but I think in this regard, we're all very clear that the Trump administration is clearly in violation of the Constitution. And it's pretty straightforward for us. You either support the Constitution or you do not. Those are the only two positions that you can take. And again, whether it's legal actions as well as the community as a whole coming together to push back in a very dramatic way.
CNN correspondent Julia Benbrook is joining us now. Julia, what else has the president said on this as we look ahead to a new week?
Well, Jessica, President Donald Trump has made it clear that he plans to expand these efforts outside of Washington, D.C. This is a part of his anti-crime agenda and his immigration crackdown. Residents here in the nation's capital have felt this for over a week now as Trump took temporary control of the D.C. Metropolitan Police. And then there is a constant visible National Guard presence. It is important to note that he has more authority to do this in the district than he does in the states. But during comments in the Oval Office on Friday, Trump made it clear that he is looking to expand these efforts. And right now, he's looking directly at Chicago. Take a listen.
Chicago's a mess. You have an incompetent mayor, grossly incompetent, and we'll straighten that one out probably next. And the people in Chicago, Mr. Vice President, are screaming for us to come. They're wearing red hats, just like this one, but they're wearing red hats.
Officials who spoke with CNN say that there have been plans to send troops there for weeks, but it's still unclear how many and when that deployment would happen. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who we heard from just a little while ago, he has accused the president of stoking fear. He has also said that the Trump administration has not reached out directly to his team or to the governors. Now, let's pull up some of the recent Chicago crime stats. These are from the Chicago Police Department. And they show that violent crime in the city has been on a downward trajectory. In a statement, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker said this. He said, quote, "The safety of the people of Illinois is always my top priority. There is no emergency that warrants the President of the United States federalizing the Illinois National Guard, deploying the National Guard from other states, or sending active duty military within our own borders." While it is not uncommon for federal authorities like the National Guard to assist across the country when there is an emergency situation like a natural disaster or civil unrest, experts say that sending in the National Guard in a blanket order to combat crime and implement the president's immigration policies is unprecedented. Trump has seemed to start here in Washington. He's then looking at Chicago. He says New York is next. And in recent weeks, he has listed off several other major cities that he says are, quote, very bad, among them Los Angeles and Baltimore.
All right, Julia Benbrook, thank you so much for that reporting. And let's bring in CNN senior political commentator and former senior advisor to Mitch McConnell, Scott Jennings, and former Hillary for America senior aide and Democratic strategist Joel Payne. Gentlemen, good Sunday evening to both of you. Thanks for being here. Scott, I want to start first with you and what Julia was just talking about, these plans to send troops into Chicago. Historically, conservatives, Republicans, have favored state and local governments over the federal government. This, in this case, will be going against the wishes of a local government, of a state government. How do you kind of square that circle?
Well, also historically, conservatives have not favored high murder rates, and conservatives have not favored high levels of illegal immigration. In the state of Illinois, there may be as many as 500,000 or more illegal immigrants. I suspect half or more than half live in Chicago. So in addition to having over 250 murders this year, you've got high levels of illegal immigration. In the president's view, it's an emergency, and it's part of his overall presentation to the American people when he got elected. I'm going to crack down on crime. I'm going to crack down on illegal immigration. They've had great success with this in Washington, D.C. I grant that Washington is a different case because it's a federal zone. Chicago is, of course, a city in the state of Illinois, and I'm sure the Democrats there don't want Donald Trump to come in and clean up all their messes. It makes them look terrible. But I'm certain the residents would love to have less violent crime and less illegal immigration. And so I'm not surprised the president's moving forward with it. And I think he's likely to have success with it the way he did in Washington, D.C.
Joel, I'm curious what your response is to that, specifically on Scott's point that the president did openly say he was very open about his plans for immigration, and he was elected being very clear about what he wanted to do. What do you think about all of this?
Well, if Donald Trump was really concerned about crime, let's just start with a few things. One, his first act as president wouldn't be to release 1,600 criminals. By the way, people who committed violent crimes in Washington, D.C. would not have released them and given them clemency because of what they did on January 6th. I also think that, Donald Trump is not making a good faith attempt to actually support these local officials. There are things you could do if you wanted to, whether it's reinstate some of the cuts in places like Illinois that local officials have been asking for, or in D.C. reinsert some of the cuts that they made to the D.C. City budget. Donald Trump isn't interested in doing that because he wants the issue, and he wants the issue because he doesn't have anything else good to talk about. He has an unpopular presidency. He's got an unpopular agenda, and so when you do that, you try to change the subject. I don't think this is going to work in the long run, but I imagine Donald Trump is happy to be talking about this instead of Jeffrey Epstein or his disaster of a big, beautiful bill.
Yeah, Scott, we had a Democratic congresswoman on in the last hour who said something similar in that this is all about distraction because there are these unpopular legislation and other things. What do you say to that?
Well, he's more popular at this point in his second term than Barack Obama was in his, and he's more popular today than Joe Biden was in his. And so I disagree. I don't think Donald Trump's all that unpopular by historical standards, recent historical standards. And at the same time, I don't agree that his agenda is unpopular. I think the big, beautiful bill is going to help people all over the country, and it invested in ICE agents so that we can continue to crack down on the immigration problem. I think Democrats here are squealing because a Republican president is showing up in blue cities, places that have been run for decades by Democrats that are overrun with violent crime and overrun with illegal immigration, and they've done nothing about it. And even worse, they have encouraged it with soft on crime local policies. And so the real issue here is political. It's just that Democrats are being exposed as being crappy at running big cities, and Donald Trump is showing up to show the people there, hey, it doesn't have to be this way. And oh, by the way, if we bring down the rates of violence and the rates of illegal immigration, that'll be a great thing to go along with it.
Joel, how do Democrats protect themselves against being called soft on crime? Because, surely Republicans are going to want to paint them that way. How do they protect themselves from that?
Just ignore the noise and the nonsense. Like Donald Trump has been touting this statistic about there haven't been any murders, there haven't been any violent crimes since he made this move in D.C. Well, the fact of the matter is there was a period of that just earlier this year. And if you look at a comparative period to last year, it was similar in terms of arrest. So it's all bad faith. And I think it's important for Democrats to continue to fill the vacuum with facts and also point out that this is not what the American people voted for. They didn't vote for Donald Trump to supersede local officials and their authority to figure out what is best for their communities to keep them safe that are consistent with their values.